Coming up on this episode of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast.
The rumor is that there are certain high-powered Democrats that may try to urge President Biden to relinquish those delegates to someone else, like.
Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast, a podcast that provides actionable information and tools you can use to live a more healthy, wealthy, and wise life. This is the special brothers-in-law edition featuring Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, who is also an attorney, and attorney Bernie Brown, a former Los Angeles City prosecutor. Let's join the conversation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are completely delighted to have one of our supreme, no pun intended, guests and interviewees from the very beginning of our podcast, Attorney Bernie Brown, who has stopped by. He's a very busy guy, but he's been gracious to stop by and be willing to share some brief moments of his time to give us his thoughts. Tell me about your opinion of the debates.
Okay, well, unfortunately, President Biden kind of played into a lot of the Trump propaganda, shall we say. Yeah. I mean, Trump's been saying all along that Joe Biden is not mentally capable of running the government, of being president, and that he's old and he's feeble. And unfortunately, when you see him walking, he looks old and he looks fragile. He looks like he could just fall apart. Like, you blow on him, he's going to fall down. But when he would speak, he would always be coherent and logical, and his analysis was sound and strong and persuasive, and he sounded like he had a good grasp of all the issues. Now, unfortunately, during the debate, he had times where it appeared as though he was confused in his own sentences, where he would start talking and then he would use a word and you say, well, it seemed like the word was out of context. Or he would start speaking about a subject matter, and in the middle of it, he would interject something that seemed to be irrelevant, or some commentary that seemed to not be related to what he was talking about, giving the impression that he was confused, and he had long pauses and seemed to be confused, and so it did appear as though he was having some age-related issues.
Right.
So I think the debate really hurt him.
Well, no, I agree, and I think he agrees also. I watched, as you did, I watched the debate, and I watched the commentator. I watched his speech afterwards, where it was completely different. And there's no question, if you're late 70s or early 80s or whatever, you're going to have age issues, including Trump. Now, Trump's issues theoretically was he just lied about everything. He didn't answer the question, and he would just say, well, let me go back to what that guy said, and then he would go back into his routine and everything. I think anybody can have a bad debate. Obama had a bad debate the first time out, So I think all that's, I think there's style and substance. There's no question style-wise, as you get older, your style is not as cool as it was when you were in your 40s and 50s. But substance is what runs governments, basically. It's what you do and why you do what you do, what your ethics are and your belief systems and that sort of thing. So I'm not worried about that. I think, and I think that's why he chose Kamala Harris 4 years ago. Says, I want, and their president does that. I want somebody, that if something happens to me or if I can't, blah, 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 who I feel comfortable can run things. The prosecutor from California can run things if she's elected president.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm just concerned, and I agree with all of that. I'm concerned about those swing voters.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to be easy.
I think, when they're looking at that debate, and honestly, they're thinking, and I'm just speculating. They're thinking we have a choice between a liar and a criminal, and a guy who's diminishing returns. It's mentally, declining, shall we say?
Yeah, but I think the president doesn't run the government by himself.
Right.
He is not. And I don't disagree with anything you said. I think though, even if he is diminishing because of his partner, the country will be okay. I'm talking about Kamala Harris.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point. Now,
and that's why you have a vice president.
Her ratings are not great high.
Well, I think some of that is that we as a country, even though we talk about our liberalism and our openness and our women's rights, we're still behind even Mexico in hiring or electing a female president. Think about that. Mm-hmm. Mexico has a female president. Mm-hmm. India's had female presidents. Britain, on and on and on and on and on. My point is that I think there's still that, male dominance or whatever one wants to call it, that until we get the first one, then, it's going to be typical. And I think that's what Harris is going to have to deal with. But there will be a first one, and she's on the precipice to make that happen if necessary.
Mm-hmm. Well, some people or some of the high-powered Democrats are considering other alternatives.
But see, the reality is there are no alternatives. Mm-hmm. He has the delegates. Yes. Just like Trump has the delegates. And the only way you get those delegates is if he releases them. Mm-hmm. So you can't make him give up his delegates. Yes. He has them. Right. The convention is going to be in July or August. I think it's in August. That's a done deal. And that's the other reality. There is no mechanism in place to deal with this late in stage. If he says yes, I'm going to do it or whatever.
Yes, and the rumor is that there are certain high-powered Democrats that may try to urge President Biden to relinquish those delegates to someone else, like Governor Newsom or other powerful Democrats that they might think. Yes, go ahead.
I've heard that, and I think you're exactly right. But I'm going to make a thought that won't happen.
All righty.
It's too late. He's already said no. And to use Newsom's term, folks just need to move on. That's a non-starter. And I think the longer, and somebody said, and I'll be interested in your thoughts about this. And I've been a Republican and a Democrat, so I can, it doesn't matter. Right. But that the Republicans are sort of like tough folks, yes. Trump can literally shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll say, no, that's my guy, I'm going to stand with him, whatever. The Democrats, on the other hand, if they don't see perfection, then they start, whining and crying and, oh my God, what's going to happen? So they end up being their own worst enemy, is my point. And I don't know whether that's true or not. But it's going to be interesting going forward. And we're going to know in a few months. This is not going to be a year. This is going to be a few months. And all of this will come true.
It's quite an exciting time to live.
It is.
That's when you think, I've seen it all. I'm an old guy now. I know what's going to happen, And then it becomes like, so utterly unpredictable.
Indeed. So many ways. And what I always tell myself, God is in charge.
Yes.
Whatever my fears, my worries, I'll put it in God's hands.
That's the good one. All right. Thank you.
Yes. I will do my part. Justin, do you have any questions, any thoughts?
I do. In regards to the immunity, I'll make this quick. Richard Nixon was pardoned, and if they rule in favor of immunity, will they being the Heritage Foundation or whomever it might be, want to revisit that pardon, lift it, and expunge him from any wrongdoing?
Oh, man.
I know that's kind of deep.
Richard Nixon, okay. Are you thinking about expunging Richard Nixon? They could, but that's so far back in history. I don't think that they'll go there, but they could. They certainly, there's nothing to stop them from wanting to go there. But I don't think that Richard Nixon, and then correct me, did he actually get convicted? I don't think he ever.
No.
Right.
No, he didn't.
So there's nothing to expunge.
Yeah, I think
he resigned. He
resigned voluntarily.
Right.
Prior to, I think a number of people came to him and said that, hey, we have enough evidence to convict. You need to resign. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And I guess the crux of the question was, would it be the immunity? Would it be retroactive?
Generally, Supreme Court cases are not retroactive, and in Nixon's case, since he was never convicted, there would actually be nothing to expunge, and so that would be the case there. Yes. So. Okay.
And it's ironic that the convention, the Democratic convention, I believe it's in Chicago again. And back in the day, it was pretty contentious. It seems like it might be contentious this time as well.
It's not going to be contentious.
You don't think so?
That was 1968 with Hubert Humphrey, and that was a whole different generation. Now that will be demonstrators at both conventions. There's no question about that. Trust me, this is all locked and loaded. It's going to go. They've got the boat. They got to run it through. You're going to have the balloons and the confetti. Blah 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 blah. And one of the other things about the debate. According to a number of the pundits, it was one of the least watched debates in history. A lot of people thought it was going to be the opposite because most people know both of these folks. This is the first time an ex-president is running against a current president. There are no surprises here, not really. And so you either like it or you don't like. I mean, they either like one person or they don't like them. But no, I think it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's going to go like clockwork.
Well, that will be another opportunity to get together with you gentlemen to have a conversation after that, because whatever it is, it's going to be something.
We can talk again in August.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be there. I'm just thinking you can raise that issue. Pardons.
Yes.
I think Biden may, at some point, if he loses the election, he may change his mind and pardon his son just before he leaves office.
Yes, I would.
Trump has already said that if he wins the election, he's pardoning all of his buddies.
Right. And as a matter of fact, you just said, Bernie, why don't we plan to do that? Why don't we plan to someday in August, which is only a couple months away? We get back together post conventions because the Republican convention is in July and the Democrats in August. But after that, we get back together and have a discussion and see what happens.
Sounds great. I would love that.
Okay. As a matter of fact, on that note right there, let's make some predictions so that we can revisit those predictions then.
Well, I'll predict Biden will be nominated by the Democratic Party without hesitation.
I predict that the Supreme Court will not give absolute presidential immunity.
And I think the Supreme Court will do it. I think they're all in the tank, and what's done is done. And we're going to have to get another president to replace the court.
I think that they will do it 6-3, and Ketanji Brown Jackson will write the dissent.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All righty.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, listen, Brother Brown, we want to thank you so much and hope you have a terrific rest of your Saturday. Give my best to Gloria. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful show you have, and I'm glad to give any participation, be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
God bless you too.
All right. Take care.
You've been listening to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast, the special brothers-in-law edition featuring Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, who's also an attorney, and attorney Bernie Brown, a former Los Angeles City prosecutor. We value you as the listener and your views, so you can connect with either gentleman at www.thwwp.com. That's at www.thwwp.com. Click on the contact link and we'll respond to you. While you're there, check out the other past episodes, blogs, and books. In the meantime, be the change you want to see in the world. This is the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD.